Hello, my name is Mariusz Smolij. I'm conductor and music director of the Ekidiana Symphony Orchestra in Louisiana. And I'm here to invite you to the third concert in our revival series that we will present on November 13, 2020. It will be a chamber program consisting of a small ensemble. And I think one of the best line of introduction that I can think of for this particular program is a sentence I heard the other day that says, "When the words stop, music starts." I think music has this unique power of transforming feelings, emotions in the way that no other arts and form of communication can. Music can bring us from one place to the other, can affect how we feel, can make us laugh or smile or perhaps cry and wonder. And the types of work that I selected for that presentation, I think, are excellent examples of that unique power of music of transformation. Transform is the title of this concert. In addition to that type of transformation that I described, some of the works will show us the inner ways, the inner path that musical narration can take and sort of grow organically and transform itself. On some examples, we'll show you how a musical seed planted at the beginning of the piece grows and transforms to something uniquely different, but yet connected with the original idea. The guest artist for our program will be wonderful young pianist Ziang Xu. He is the gold medal winner of 2018 International Piano Competition in New Orleans. He's going to join me very soon from his home in Boston, Massachusetts. And first I'm going to ask him to play an example of music by Franz Schubert, which will be a part of our presentation. Franz Schubert is one of those composers that can create this sensible, unique atmosphere. He's one of the best melody writers, and his unique harmonies and his narration have this power to bring us to a different place, sort of transform the way we feel and perceive the current reality. So now let's go to Boston and listen to a beautiful example by Schubert music by Ziang Xu. Thank you, Ziang. I think that was a perfect example of music that comes to the point where the words stop. Wonderful expression of feelings and emotions. The next work that I will ask Ziang to share with you will be part of a cycle of variation. Variation is a musical form where a composer takes a theme, sort of like a seed, to the entire composition, and based on the seed, usually a short 8-bar, maybe 16-bar theme, he builds a set of variations, music that evolves from the initial idea, that transforms the initial idea. A very popular musical form, you may say that jazz is an example of special kind of variations. In the field of classical music, many composers were using that form to show their compositional skills. And there's an interesting story about Mr. Diabelli. Mr. Diabelli was a publisher and also amateur composer who lived in Vienna, and he came with this interesting idea of presenting a number of his contemporary composer with the same theme and asking them to write their own set of variations based on so-called Diabelli's theme. It was actually a very simple, nice waltz. His idea was to bring those compositions together, publish them. He was a music publisher, and this was his way of raising money to help orphaned children at that time. This was introduced to many wonderful contemporary composers such as Liszt, Czerny, and Ludwig van Beethoven. He was very hesitant at the initial concept, initial idea. He was a very independent thinker. He didn't like people telling him what to write, how to write, or give him a musical theme to work on. But somehow, maybe because of the noble cause, he changed his mind. And as a result, he wrote a wonderful series of variations, so-called Diabelli variations, that today we see as one of the absolutely top examples of musical transformation, of musical variations. And we see how the musical brain of Beethoven works, how he beautifully develops this theme in so many different ways. Magnificent work of this wonderful composer, and example of variations, and one of the most popular works in the piano repertoire. I'm going to ask Ziang to give us a little sample of those Diabelli variations that also will be presented at our upcoming concert on November 13th. Another example of collaboration between a famous musician and publisher will be a work by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart that we'll present on our upcoming concert in November. Mozart was approached by a Viennese publisher by the name of Franz Hofmeister, and he was asked to write chamber piece for 4 instruments, but unlike the tradition up to that point, Hofmeister didn't ask for string quartet, work for 2 violins, viola and cello, but he asked for piano quartet, consisting of piano, violin, viola and cello. That was a sort of new idea, and what was behind Hofmeister thinking was a commercial success. He thought he came with this sort of a new musical vehicle. He hoped that new work that Mozart will introduce will attract a lot of attention, and he will be able to sell a lot of copies of this new score. Well, Mozart did a magnificent job with this commission, except for the fact that the music was a little bit too difficult to play for an average Viennese amateur player. So it wasn't a commercial success at all. Actually, after the publication of the first piano quartet, Hofmeister withdrew his offer that he initially presented to Mozart of having 3 of those works. He paid him the full amount of money, but said, no, this is enough, this is not going to work. Well, history tells us that actually Hofmeister had a great idea in terms of an artistic quality rather than commercial success, because this new setup of instruments, piano with 3 string instruments, proved to be a wonderful musical vehicle for Mozart and some other composers. And that very piece we will present you on our November concert. There's also an element of an inner transformation that I mentioned before. The quartet starts in the minor key of G and introduces very dark and somber qualities, unlike many other Mozart works, but slowly it develops into a more alive, brighter texture, and the entire quartet ends with a very happy finale. And if you know the opera Magic Flute by Mozart, you may recognize some melodies from this famous opera. This is a concept that we know in music from darkness to light, that we also can witness with the famous Beethoven Fifth Symphony. Here, this concept of transformation from dark to light is beautifully presented in the piano quartet in G minor by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Another chamber work that will conclude our November presentation comes from Italian composer Gaetano Donizetti. We know, of course, Donizetti as the famous composer of Italian opera, but here we will hear his talent when he presents us with music without words, music without singing. He composed a trio for flute, bassoon, and piano when he was still quite a young and aspiring composer. Sort of out of a necessity, he was asked to play at those chamber gatherings in Bergamo, Italy, and to provide some original music. I guess there were no singers around, or the time was too short to come up with the lyrics. So he wrote this work for 2 woodwind instruments and piano, and interestingly enough, was still able to present us with those wonderful lyrical cantabile singing qualities that he is famous for in his operas. And it's another example of a transformation. He was able to find those singing qualities in his writing, and rather than writing them for a voice, as he usually does, he wrote them for the wind instruments. And if you close your eyes and try to imagine a soprano singing instead of the flute, or the baritone singing instead of a bassoon, you can actually easily imagine an operatic structure. Wonderful chamber work by Donizetti that will end the concert, where you also hear music by Mozart, Schubert and Beethoven, all about transformation, all about beauty, all about power of music. I hope you will join us Again, this will be a live stream production because of the pandemic. We are forced to play to an empty hall, but too many, hopefully, of you watching and witnessing our presentation from the comfort of your home. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you on the other side of the screen, and happy listening. Thank you very much.